Oh, okay. Hello. Um, yeah, I hope it was clear how to come here. I linked it in the top of the live chat and in the very top of the description box. Because last time, some of you were saying that you couldn't find the next stream right away. So I was like, you should like do it like a chain, like open the next stream before you close the last stream so you have access to it. I don't know. Okay, whatever. Um, so I am for real gonna keep this short because I would actually like to be able to get through the next essay if possible tonight. And obviously spending an hour doing this again is not conducive to that. Um, I think this is my favorite essay so far in the book. So, there was a couple of like notes in the bottom that were like really long. There's one that was where is it? There's one that was like a page and a half, one of the notes. Um Okay, well, we'll go through the notes as we go through the essay. Okay. So, starts the essay by just kind of saying, this is like a controversial topic and it's like misunderstood. She says, as I understand it, separatism is not a theory or a doctrine, nor a demand for certain specific behaviors on the part of feminists, though it is undeniably connected with lesbianism. Feminism seems to me to be a kaleidoscope, something, okay, whatever, whatever. Where's like the thing where she's like, she lists like the different types of things that she considers to be part of separation? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Also, I think that this essay, Hugo's eating fried rice. Rad. Hey guys. Okay, so I think this essay was the most brutal when it came to men. Like, this essay literally is like, if women were like self interested and wanted to take care of themselves, they would just never fucking take care of men, and men are pathetic and can't take care of themselves, and we should just let them handle that themselves. It was so harsh. Uh, okay. Uh, so she mentions here. So if separation of any time, so she kind of equates separation with having boundaries and saying no at all. So like even to her in the essay, she says separation can be anything from like living on a lesbian only commune to like being very picky about which men you actually decide to date and sleep with. So it's to her separation is kind of symbolic of just saying no. Um, and so she's like, you can see that everywhere, right? And so she points out, listen to this. This I feel like she's calling out third wave feminism, and this essay was originally written in 1977, so it's like insane. Like, listen to this. Um, the presence of this theme is vigorously obscured, trivialized, mystified, and outright denied by many feminist apologists who seem to find it embarrassing, while it's embraced, explored, and expanded and roundified by most of the more inspiring theorists and activists. The theme of separation is noticeably absent or heavily qualified in most of the things I take to be personal solutions and band aid projects, like the legalization of prostitution, liberal marriage contracts, improvement of the treatment of rape victims, and action. Affirmative action. Okay, also, question. Is this affirmative action a reference to affirmative action for women? Was that a thing? Because I have not heard of that being a thing, and I think that might just be because I'm like a product of my time. Like, is the NCAA, is that like affirmative action for women? And is that what she's saying is like a kind of band-aid? I mean, because I get it, because it's criticizing male institutions, right? And all of those things are like ways to make male institutions more um palatable or like hospitable to women. But she's arguing that like materially taking part in the male institution is like giving them power. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Aisha. I'm kind of young sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. uh, J. Marie says, I don't think it's harsh. Lol, why can't they learn to take care of themselves? No, well, they should, but she's literally being like, I don't know. There were several parts where I was trying not to laugh because I was like, sick burn, dude. Okay. Let's keep going. So, yeah, she's calling out. So, the sexual access movement. Um, yeah, I like fried rice. I used to make fried rice a lot when I was in university. I haven't made it in a long time. Like, I think my rice machine is like in a cupboard or something. Um, okay, don't distract me. I'm trying to be serious so I can get to the next essay. Okay. Um, right. So she's calling out the sexual access movement. I mean, I guess you saw that in the 70s. It's not like a new, like, it's not like she was looking into the future, but I don't think she saw, or maybe she did see how bad it was going to get, and she was being like, yo, this is going to get worse. Okay. Um, Okay, feminist separation is, of course, separate, maybe not of course, because people seem to not know what it is. Separation of various sorts or modes from men and from institutions, relationships, roles, and activities which are male defined, male dominated, and operating for the benefit of males and the maintenance of male privilege. This separation being initiated or maintained at will by women. Yeah. So she's like, it can take many forms, right? Yeah. I find it so interesting that she talks like because I have so little knowledge of this topic. Generally, the separations are brought about and maintained for the sake of something else like independence, liberty, growth, invention, sisterhood, safety, health, or the practice of novel or heretical customs. Often the separations in question evolve unpremeditated as one goes one's way and finds various persons, institutions, or relationships useless, obstructive, or noisome and leaves them aside or behind. So she's like, she talks a little bit later in the essay about how once women have been, as she calls them, awoken, so like consciousness raising, um, there are certain things that they used to do which they no longer will do. Like that consciousness raising can lead to like, divorce or like um staying in your marriage but not having sex and not doing any of the housekeeping anymore and stuff like this. Um, I don't know. Just I have so little exposure to this topic. It's so interesting to me. Okay, there's a couple of notes. I didn't know when I was reading this if I should do the notes. Almost feel well. I love this essay so much. I'm pretty sure I'll reread it again at some point on my channel. Maybe I'll slip it into a Benji soapbox and force you all to sit there for however many minutes it took me to read it. But there's a lot of notes, and I'm just gonna read them to you. So I'm gonna give you like the sentence and then like where the asterisk is and read the notes and give you my thoughts on that because it seems to be kind of more personal stuff. Well, obviously they're notes. Okay. Where should we start this one? Okay. The feminist separation can take many forms: breaking up or avoiding close relationships, or working relationships, forbidding someone to enter your house, excluding someone from your company or from your meetings, withdrawal from participation in some activities or institutions, or avoidance of participation, avoidance of communication or influence from certain quarters, not listening to music with sexist lyrics, not watching TV, withholding commitment or support, rejection of or rudeness towards obnoxious individuals. Okay, then note. Then we're reading the note. Yeah, yeah, Aisha, you can go listen to the whole thing. It's just in the last stream I did. Um, yeah, you can go listen to it. Adrian Rich, quote, makes me question the whole idea of quote unquote courtesy or quote unquote rudeness. Surely they're constructs, since women become quote unquote rude when we ignore or reject male obnoxiousness, while male quote unquote rudeness is usually punctuated with the quote unquote haven't you a sense of humor tactics, end quote. Yes, me too, I embrace rudeness. Our compulsive slash compulsory politeness so often is what coerces us into their quote unquote fellowship. So she's like, stop being nice to men. Great. Let's read the phrase with the second note on it. The closest we come to that, I think, is the separation, which is the instinctive and self preserving recoil from this systematic misogyny that surrounds us. T. Gray Atkinson, T. Grace Atkinson, should give more attention here to our vulnerability to assault and degradation and to separation as protection. Wait, are these notes like, because like most of it's in italics and then the rest is in bold. So like did T. Gray Atkinson read this essay and tell her this about that sentence? Holy shit, that's really cool. I guess she's friends with both or knew both Adrian Rich and or they just read the magazine. I don't know. But it's very cool. So T. Gray Atkinson said should give more attention here to our vulnerability to assault and degradation and to separation as protection. Then this is like not in italics anymore. Okay, but then we have to re-emphasize that it has to be separation at our behest. We've had enough of their imposed separation from our quote unquote for our quote unquote protection. Like I think what she's talking about here is like the what was the term she used later on where she talked about like sweetie, what's wrong with you? Anyway, where she basically talks about like separation being imposed upon women as a way for men to like control them. But this is a different thing. Okay. Um, there's no denying that in my real life, protection and maintenance of places for healing are major motives for separation. Okay. So then she talks about how sometimes it's like a joyful, exuberant thing, separation, and other times it's like a painful thing. Leaky, are you okay? What's wrong? Are you having a dream? Are you chasing something? Don't glare at me. She was whining. All right. So she talks about how there's like different degrees of separation, right? Uh a separatist practices separation consciously, systematically, and probably more generally than the others and advocates thorough and broad spectrum separation as part of the conscious strategy of liberation. And contrary to the image of separatist as a cowardly escapist, her life oh yeah. So she talks about how like it's intentional and I think this is kind of what she was saying about how it needs to be like a self-imposed separation. I don't care anymore about what. Squeaky stopped whining and being weird. I don't know. I think she just went back to sleep. I don't know what she's doing. Um oh, you're talking to Hugo. Okay, whatever. Um right. So women being like run out of their spaces and then being in separated from men, that's one situation. That obviously is not good. That's not what she's talking about. But she's talking about when women do separate from men, the like as far as I understand it, she's kind of like the men act the same either way. Like that the men once you've run out of town, the men will like chase you out of town because you're running, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like a vindication. They're vindictive. Um and insecure. Like I love there's so many quotes from this. Like I almost wish I had an Instagram so I could like fucking quote this whole essay. Okay. Maybe I'll do that on Getter, although I doubt it'll get much reach. But like listen to this, it's like so hard. Um the penalties for being a lesbian are ostracism, harassment, and job insecurity or joblessness. The penalty for rejecting men's sexual advances is often rape and perhaps even more often forfeit of such things as professional or job opportunities. And the separatist lives with the added burden of being assumed by many to be a morally depraved, man hating bigot. But there is a clue here. If you are doing something that is so strictly forbidden by the patriarchs, you must be doing something right. Okay. So then she's like, in both feminist and anti feminist literature, everybody agrees men are parasites, which pretty hard to argue with that. Uh, so she's like, the propaganda is that it goes both ways, but like obviously, both anecdotally and statistically, we know that's not the case. Um, like this is what I mean when it's harsh. Listen to this. The parasitism of males on females is, as I see it, demonstrated by the panic, rage, and hysteria generated in so many of them by the thought of being abandoned by women. But it is demonstrated in a way that is perhaps more generally persuasive by both literary and sociological evidence. Um, then she talks about how here convincingly shows that males tend into shockingly significant numbers and in alarming degree. Like just the way she like it's like sensationalized. She's like, "Can you believe this is how useless the men are?" I don't know, it just feels so harsh. Um, shows an alarming degree fall into mental illness, petty crime, alcoholism, physical infirmity, chronic unemployment, drug addiction, and neuroses when deprived of the care and companionship of a female mate or keeper. Like they're literally dependent on men. Like without men, they can't function. I mean, women. I don't know. I feel like it's so harsh. Um, there's literally a men's rights activist here. Dude, did you think I was gonna like that's someone who I'm very happy to block in a live chat. I'm literally talking about separatism. Okay. Um great. So, ooh, Kate Millett. Don't I have some Kate Millett? Oh, that's Harriet Taylor Mill. That's not Millett. Well, whatever. Kate Millett's on my list of to read eventually. Okay. Um dum dum dum. Oh yeah, then she talks about all the ways in which you're becoming popular, Benj. Oh, because I have MRAs coming. Well, I mean, I have like only 8 people here, and one of them seems to be an MRA. I don't know if I'm super popular, but thank you. Um, I don't do this to be popular though. If there was only one person watching, I'd be doing the same thing. Okay, so right, she talks about all the ways in which men use women to like recharge or whatever, and it's like Uh, men are drained and depleted by their living by themselves and with and among other men, and are revived and refreshed, recreated by going home and being served dinner, changing to clean clothes, having sex with the wife, or by dropping by the apartment of a woman friend to be served coffee or a drink and stroked in one way or another, or by picking up a prostitute for a quickie or for a dip in favorite sexual escape fantasies, or by raping refugees from their wars, foreign or domestic. The ministrations of women, be they willing or unwilling, free or paid for, are what restore men their strength, will, and confidence to go on with what they call living. It's so brutal. I tried not to laugh, like especially with what they call living. Like whoa, there. Um, but yeah, it's like men are monsters, and they serve only to hurt women. Like this chapter is almost like a reaction to phallism, right? If society is built in a way to prioritize men and to view them as human and women as like having adjacent humanity only if it's useful to the man and all this shit, then and she talks about how in all the previous chapters, women will like um buy into the propaganda, they will dupe themselves, they'll rationalize because they're trying to like make do with the situation they're in. And she is like, that is stupid. because you can't make a bargain with someone who has that much power over you. You can't get someone who doesn't has no need to respect you to respect you. Like they could go about whether they respect you or not, they're going to get what they want from you. Why would they bother to respect you then? Like she is like, it is stupid of you to try to make it work because we know that this is how men are. The entire separatism essay is basically like, you know what? You matter. You matter. Your safety matters. Your happiness matters. Um, and you know men are monsters, so stay the fuck away from them. That's basically what this essay is. um, but she's not shaming women. I really, really like that. Like, I'm sure if VF was here, she'd be like, she's basically being like a TRA or something. But like, um, I think it's good. I like that it's accessible. I really like that. Like, even when she was, who was it in the last chat when she was saying about oh no, VF was here in the last one. Yeah, when I was reading it, um, she was talking about right. She's the author Marilyn Frye said that like an instance of separatism. She basically says separatism is the power to say no, right? And an instance of separatism is um being really picky about who. Oh, hey VF, there you are. I'm just mentioning you. Being really picky about who it is that you sleep with. And VF was like, "But why are you sleeping with them at all in the first place?" And I'm like, I hope that there is some woman who is still in, doing that stuff, who can read this essay and because that line is there, can process the rest of the essay and then stop doing that shit. You know what I mean? Okay. Um okay. Hugo. Uh, I don't know what's going on. What was said, I gotta know. About who by what. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Oh, you weren't here before VF. I'm trying to power through this analysis and immediately start the next essay. Um, oh, right. I wanted to read where the note was for this. Where is that? Okay, let's go back here. Wow, these are very long sentences. Okay. If it is true that males live parasitically upon females, it seems reasonable to suppose that many of them, and those loyal to them, are in some way sensitive to the parallelism between their situation and that of the fetus. They could easily identify with the fetus. The woman who is free to see the fetus is a parasite might be free to see the man as a parasite. Okay, then there's a note. So somebody named Carolyn Whitbeck commented, and her comment was, cross-cultural evidence suggests it's not the fetus that gets rejected in cultures where abortion is common. It is the role of motherhood, the burden in particular of quote-unquote illegitimacy, where the institution of illegitimacy does not exist. Abortion rates are pretty low. Then the italics end. So now this is Marilyn Frye's response to that. This suggests to me that the women's rejection of the fetus is even more directly a rejection of the male and his world than I had thought. Interesting. Okay. Then she talks about the parallels between abortion access, so the right to say no to pregnancy, um, and separatism, the right to say no to men in society generally and male institutions generally. And that is a very like powerful analogy. I really liked that. And so how the fetus is, a parasite, right? Um, arguably children are parasites. Not to offend anyone, but just like kind of fit in the definition. Um, and how the men recognize, oh shit, you're smart enough to recognize that give, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice is not always a good thing for you. Oh shit. you suddenly realize that being the host to a parasite is not a good thing. Oh shit, maybe you're gonna realize that I'm a parasite and that I'm leeching off of you too. Um, Hello? I am on a stream. Oh, fuck, I'm so sorry. I forgot that stuff. Thank you. Bye. Yeah. I thought that one of my roommates was about to come in here and start asking me about video games or something. Okay. Hi, Cyber. Did I say hi, Cyber? I'm saying hi, Cyber now. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, the abortion thing, very interesting. In the eyes of the other parasite, the image of the holy, self-determined abortion, involving not even a ritual submission to male veto power, is the mirror image of death. Like, it's so brutal. I love it. Okay. Then she talks about something which, again, I think it's because I'm young, but I've never heard this before. This is like when people were like, "What if you want to have gay marriage? The next thing you know, you're gonna want to marry animals?" And I was like, "What?" I never understood where that came from. This is like a new version of that. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Um, Apparently, people have said, like she's referencing this as if it's the discourse that if you allow women to kill fetuses or unborn children or whatever, however they would frame it, that the next thing is that you're going to start killing old people. And she was like, why? Um so she is like, oh, thanks, Cyber. She's talking about how, when you're like old and ill, obviously you're not contributing a ton to society. Like the people who contribute the most to society are the middle-aged people, right? Like little kids and old people don't, right? They take more than they produce. Um and so she's like on the levels of parasitism. I guess she's kind of positing it like fetus is like the most parasitic, old people are next and then men or something like that. But she's basically saying, or that men see it that way at least. She's basically saying that when men throw this idea out there, this is like a further projection of theirs. That like, oh, you're rejecting this type of parasite, then you're gonna reject this type of parasite, then it will like this. And like also I feel very weird about referring to old people as parasites. I'm just addressing the concepts in the essay. I'm not trying to make a judgment okay. Um and she says, like women don't want to kill old people anyway, even though we are the ones who take care of them. So she's like, it's not because women are just evil bitches. It's because we just recognize when things hurt us and we don't want to be like hurt and used. Okay. So here she goes into, I don't even know what's the word for it, biohumanism or something. Listen to this. Um there are other reasons, of course, why patriarchal loyalists. Oh wait. No, I read that. Sorry. There are other reasons, of course, why patriarchal loyalists should be disturbed about abortion on demand. A major one being that it would be a significant form of female control of reproduction, and at least from certain angles, it looks like the progress of patriarchy is the progress towards male control of reproduction, starting with possession of wives and continuing through the invention of obstetrics and the technology of extrauterine gestation. So, like cutting women out of it altogether so that they have 1000% control over it. I don't know what the term for that is, but I know that there's some issues with the radical notion where some women have written essays on the topic. So she says this is like a cornerstone of patriarchal power, and that men giving up the fight over this would be giving up patriarchy altogether. Um, So she says she's chosen abortion because it's very dramatic and the most emotional option. Many awakening women become celibate or lesbian, and others become a very great deal more choosy about when, where, and in what relationships they will have sex with men. And the men affected by these separations generally react with defensive hostility, anxiety, and guilt tripping, not to mention descents into illogical argument, which match and extend their own most fanciful images of female irrationality. My claim is that they are very afraid because they depend very heavily on the goods they receive from women, and these separations cut them off from those goods. Yeah. Yeah. So then she brings us back to one of the concepts she introduced in the first essay, oppression. Differences of power are always manifested in asymmetrical access. So the president has access to almost anyone. Meanwhile, almost nobody has access to him. This kind of thing. Um, so the slave is unconditionally accessible to the master. Total power is unconditional access. Total powerlessness is being unconditionally accessible. When I read that, my first thought was like, um, porn culture, like the end point of sexual liberation. Like we're there, kind of, or more than when she wrote this, at least. Um, like we are now in a society where a man will see a 16-year-old girl walking down the street and stop her and say, "What's your OnlyFans?" Right? Like that is the end point. We are at the point where there is total sexual access to women as a society. Um, Say that again, she says. I will say it again. The slave is unconditionally accessible to the master. Total power is unconditional access. Total powerlessness is being unconditionally accessible. The creation and manipulation of power is constituted on the manipulation and control of access. So she's kind of saying like separatism is the fundamental um, piece of taking our power back. And like she finishes the essay, or towards the end of the essay, she talks about how women are scared to actually know what it is to have power over themselves, what it is to not be governed by patriarchy. Um, and so I think that makes sense then. If she's if she's framing separatism as the first step towards self-control, that women are scared of it or threatened by it or whatever, right? Or insecure about it. Because if they're scared to truly have complete self-control, then taking the first step is like a huge fucking deal, right? Um okay. Then she talks about she uses all women instead of female only. Like we all use the term female only now, but she uses the term all women, and I like that. Um she talks about how they're very controversial and that there's always some tiny minority of men who show up. She mentions two specific instances. She said one tried to crash our women only rape speak out, and a few hid under auditorium seats to try to spy on a women only meeting at the National Organization of Women Convention in Philadelphia. And she's like, these men are the men who recognize that their power is in us not being able to say no. And they recognize that us saying no is like a big fucking deal. And it can lead to like some major shifting in the power structure. And she's like, that's why these men show up, because they recognize how serious this is. The exclusion of men from the meeting not only deprives them of certain benefits, which they might survive without, it is a controlling of access, hence an assumption of power. It is not only mean, it is arrogant. Like it's arrogant of women to have power over ourselves when you have a phallist mentality, right? When you're looking at things with the arrogant eye. Okay. Just references to my past essays, the past essays from the book that I've been reading. I don't know, like if you read. Um. So she talks about she she lists two things here. She says first, yeah, how to take back your power, how to shift the power. The first thing you have to do, if you are universally accessible, aka universally powerless, you need to have the power to say no. Um when we start from a position of total accessibility, there must be an aspect of no saying, which is the beginning of control. In every effective act and strategy, the effective ones being precisely those which shift power. Also, can we take a second to not talk about the essay and to think think about everything I've just been saying? Women's power is in women taking back their power starts with the ability to say no. Starts with the ability to prioritize themselves. Starts with the ability to say this is potentially or definitely very harmful to me, so I refuse to engage in it. And think about the gender critical movement. These men are anti-feminist. Okay, I'm gonna let's get moving on. Yes, Matt Adam, exactly. Matt Adam says it's like if women gain autonomy, men automatically lose something. Okay. Right, then the second thing. So, first is about being able to control access. Who has access to you? The second step in shifting power is defining. So she talks about how you need to get comfortable with saying no. You need to get in the habit of saying no so that it's something you don't even think about anymore. That you go from a place of feeling guilty about it to a place of not even noticing that you're doing it because you have habituated yourself with prioritizing yourself. Yeah. Okay. Um then she talks about definition and defining, which again, I went back to Pornography by Dworkin, which so she said, and definition is another face of power. So you know how men have the power to decide what words mean, how society interprets the words, who gets to decide, all this shit. The powerful normally determine what is said and what is sayable. Again, think about the gender critical community for a second here. Okay. So she talks about how um, the slave who excludes the master from her hut thereby declares herself not a slave. So, by saying no to men in action, you have changed, like in the abstract, no, no, sir, not abstract. In the metaphysical sense, you have changed who you are in relation to each other, right? And so, by doing this, you are defining yourself out of the male category of what a woman is. Because what a woman is someone who's under his control, and you are now out of his control. So you're now no longer a woman in that sense to him. Um, I mean, at least that's how I understand it. Maybe somebody who's actually studied philosophy would get some kind of deeper something out of this, but that's what I'm getting. Um, and she gives a example. You know, any man in a government position can be like, "Oh, I'm in a peace talk, and we're making peace," and he'll get a fucking Nobel Prize just because he decided to use the word peace talk, regardless of what the outcome was, right? Then she'll say, "And me, I'm a woman." She will. What's the term she uses here? On the other hand, when I call a certain speech act a rape, my quote unquote calling it does not make it so. And she's like, people will try and like tell you that you're being metaphorical or like basically try to like rationalize you out of the position. Um, and she says it's like war, right? The victors write the story. She's like, whenever there's a situation where there is a woman, and generally when renegade women call something one thing and patriarchal loyalists call it another, loyalists get their way. So the people with more power, the people who won the war. There isn't even a war. Like it's like on, you know what I mean? It's not like it's over to write about it after, but you know what I mean? Okay. Um. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. And generally, when renegade women call something one thing and patriarchal loyalists call it another, loyalists get their way. Okay. Then there is like a note. It's the longest note of the whole essay. This paragraph and the succeeding one are the passage which also provoked the most substantial questions from women who read the paper. One thing that causes trouble here is that I am talking from a stance or position that is ambiguous. It is located in two different and non communicating systems of thought action. The patriarchy, and the English language, there is general usage over which I/we do not have the control that elite males have, with the cooperation of all the ordinary patriarchal loyalists. Regarding the new being and meaning which are being created now by lesbian feminists, we do have semantic authority and collectively can and do define with effect. I think it is only by maintaining our boundaries through controlling concrete access to us that we can enforce on those who are not us our definitions of ourselves, hence force on them the fact of our existence, and thence open up the possibility of having semantic authority with them. I wrote some stuff that's relevant to this in the last section of my chapter, Male Chauvinism, a Conceptual Analysis. Our intelligent I don't think that's not in this. Although the male chauvinism probably became the arrogant I essay. Okay. Because that's what she talks about in that essay. Um Our unintelligibility to patriarchal loyalists is a source of pride and delight in some contexts. Just what she okay, so this is a reference to that essay. She talks about what is intelligibility under patriarchy. Well, if a man assumes that he is all powerful, that means he is all knowing. And so what there is to know is what he knows. And so when you present something to him that was not under his power in his creation, that's unintelligible to him because it's not under his power and things in the universe are under his power. That's generally what she's talking about. Okay. Um, our unintelligibility to patriarchal loyalists is a source of pride and delight in some contexts, but if we don't have an effect on their language, on their usage, while we continue willy-nilly to be subject to theirs, being totally unintelligible to them could be fatal. A friend of mine had a dream where the women were meeting in a cabin at the edge of town, and they had a sort of inspiration through the vision of one of them that they should put a sign on the door which would connect connect with the patriarch's meaning system, for otherwise the men would be too curious slash frightened about them and would break the door down to get in. They put a picture of a fish on the door, and of course you might say the being intelligible to them might be fatal. Well, perhaps it is best to be in a position to take tactical decision to make tactical decisions about when and how to be unintelligible and intelligible. This is interesting to me because this also draws me back to queer theory. You know, you try and discuss radical feminist concepts with them, and they're so brainwashed in their language. They literally don't understand what it is you're saying to them unless you use their own language. Um, yeah. Okay. So then she talks about how definitions have to do with a like of a person, like a label for a person, has to do with what one can and cannot do, right? Definitions of dean, student, judge, and co-op are set forth by patterns of access and definitions of writer, child, owner, and of course husband, wife, man, and girl. When one changes the pattern of access, one forces new uses of a word on those affected. The term man has to shift in meaning when rape is no longer possible. Because, like, it's her supposition that men have power by dominating. And so, if a man can't rape, then he can't dominate, so is he a man? Like, that's what she is saying, like, is the patriarchal view of men. Right. So she says, by I feel I'm kind of repeating myself here, but by controlling access and by we have defined ourselves into a new category. Okay. Because women are powerless in patriarchy, and once like when I say women, I mean the concept of what men think women are or should be. What that woman doesn't exist if she has power. That's something else then. Yeah, okay. Listen to this. I think this is great. This sums up the chapter really well. The separations involved in women leaving homes, marriages, and boyfriends, separations from fetuses, and the separation of lesbianism are all pretty dramatic. That is, they are dramatic and blatant when perceived from within the framework provided by the patriarchal worldview and male parasitism. Like, it makes sense, right? Like I was saying before, it's like you were programmed to do one thing, and now you're doing this other thing. It's kind of inconceivable, and therefore threatening. And the word she uses, dramatic. Um, Hence, heterosexuality, marriage, and motherhood, which are the institutions which most obviously and individually maintain female um, accessibility to males, form the core triad of anti-feminist ideology. And all women spaces, all women organizations, all women meetings, all women classes are outlawed, suppressed, and so she is like, you can tell where the power is. Like she talks about this a lot. You look at where the edges of things are. You look at the way men react to things, and that tells you a lot. Um, how do you know what's acceptable to patriarchy? Because heterosexuality, marriage, and motherhood are all like venerated as like the best thing a woman can be is a mother, right? And uh, women doing things without any men or children involved, that's viewed like there's outright hostility to that. Like I think Izzy Fox was saying in Tasmania you can't have female only events. Like it's illegal. And it's like that's how you know where the power is. Oh my god, and then this, another harsh burn. All women classes are outlawed, suppressed, harassed, ridiculed, and punished in the name of that other fine and enduring patriarchal institution, sex equality. She knew, man. She knew. Okay. So then she concludes the essay basically by being like, some women might think this is kind of like irrelevant or like abstract and like, why are you talking about this? But she is like, we are busily engaged in what seems to us our blatant insubordination, living our own lives, taking care of ourselves and one another, doing our work, and in particular, telling it as we see it. So she's being like, you might kind of be like, why did you write this essay? Who cares? But she's saying, no, I want you guys, I want the women to prioritize themselves and their sisters. That's why. That's the first step. Um, like she references love and power. At one point, she equates love and power in this, and I think what she's kind of trying to say is that, like, love yourself and your sisters, right? Okay. I don't think I'm going to read the next essay right now because, first of all, it is a topic I don't really super feel prepared to talk about. Oh, this is what's Cornell's university stuff. It's called On Being White, Thinking Toward a Feminist Understanding of Race and Race Supremacy. I'll be honest with you. I don't feel equipped to have opinions on feminist analysis of race, or any analysis of race, to be honest with you. I have done so little formal research. Like, the only stuff I know about race things is like conversations with women. But I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying I don't feel equipped to handle like literature about it. I don't know. Um, Also, I think this essay is like 30 pages long. 128. 110 to 128. Oh no, it's like 20 pages long. 18 pages long. It's not that bad. I don't know. Okay. Cyber asked, why do women use fake ass language qualifications like this one? Women are not being empowered to freely engage with their sports organizations. You mean they're not allowed? Why suggest it's women who are weak? No, it's because it's propaganda. It's exactly what you're saying, Cyber. You put the onus on the woman, and then it's like, oh, it's your fault. You'd try better, you know? Like if you didn't want this, you'd do something about it. Um, Instead of saying like this is the only option that you're not allowed to do anything else. Like that looks bad. Like she talks about in the oppression essay, like the best way to control people is to con them into thinking that um that it's natural for them to be subordinated to you and that everything is normal and fine. Like, so you need this kind of propaganda. If you literally told women all the time you're not allowed to do XYZ, at least now in this day and age, they wouldn't be okay with that. If you reframe it like this, you dress it up, then they're okay with it. Because they've been so brainwashed into this language. Um, oh, Matt Adam, are you talking about the race essay? You think that's why she prefaced the book with the not all men stuff because she was going to talk about race? Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. It's only six. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to read the next essay. Look at the top of this page. Look at that. I want a refund. No, I'm joking. Okay. Christine, what's responsible to leave it till tomorrow? I don't know though. How many essays do I have left? Don't I only have 2 essays left? So like if I read this today, then I think I can finish the book tomorrow, right? On being white, on those 2 more essays left. I don't know. Oh, Aisha says there are so many layers to subtle coercion. Yeah, like with the propaganda, the language. Yeah, because if language directs thought and thought directs action, then language is the conduit, is the path to um directing action. But that's coercion. Yeah. Um. Okay. Actually, no. I'm not going to read the other essay. I'm going to get food and watch the Great Canadian Baking Show, and then maybe if I'm really sick of it, I'll watch Great British Bake Off. You have to pick it up tomorrow. Yeah. So tomorrow at 7:30 a.m., I'm going to read the On Being White. Uh, I don't think I don't know. First of all, I'm reading tomorrow at the crack of dawn because I have to be at work at like 11:45. So I figure as long as I'm done the stream, like it doesn't take me that long to get to work. Oh, you mean owning that you don't feel equipped to talk about race is responsible? I just feel like the things I talk about on my channel, they all come up from a place of like little connections I've made with like lots of different things, right? And obviously, when it comes to race and oppression, I connect it to patriarchy and sexism, right? But I just feel like when it comes to race specifically, so much of what I've absorbed is like critical race theory stuff, and not like intersectional real feminist stuff. So I'm like, I feel like I've consumed more propaganda maybe than anything else. I don't know. Aisha, what is I mean, I think I'm putting too much pressure on myself. Also, like if I get halfway through the essay and decide I'm tired, I can just like stop the stream and do it another day. Or like if I get halfway through the essay and decide like I'm not equipped to do this and it's not going well, I can just like stop and do it another day. I don't know. I don't know. Come see the Bible. The Bible. Oh, you're very welcome, Christine. I'm glad you get something out of it. Okay, I'm going to start the next essay. You ready, Momo? Are you pumped? She's like, open her eyes. Like, why are you talking to me? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna start the next stream. Okay, see you there. 1 sec. Bye. Toodles.